Well, anyway, I'm still in the hospital, okay, and I'm having a procedure anyway. Yeah, but anyway, um, yeah. So there was something about the Papermate pen, um, and I don't know. I haven't even looked since it was like noticeable. It's been like a long time, many years, but it still might have like two hearts on the Papermate pen. Okay, and it seemed to be like a center point of calibration of when and where um, that was involving what I was like looking at that would possibly be normally a before um, and during you know building. But anyway, I was like at a specific place, and I was having to spend a lot of time in a specific location. Well, anyway, it was like the double heart, the two hearts on the Papermate pen, and it actually came to be a center point of a point of view. Um, and there was something about the GMC thing leading the way, innovation leading the way with cutting edge technology, and it seemed to be that center line was predominantly a thing about the edge, um, corners. Yeah. Anyway, so it was like ultimately a calibration of point of view. That way when I was like looking at it that way as far as architecture, even color codes and a telepathic blueprint. Yeah, for real. Anyway, yeah. So I was using a Papermate pen, a blue Papermate pen that way, looking for some normally not normal kind of like going to look for kind of like thing. Yeah. Well, I was like looking for the normally not normal looking. So that's what I was doing. So and ultimately getting to a 90-degree right angle of in my mind, a telepathic blueprint of symbolic representation, more so um, in that way. But anyway, the thing of it is that there's something about the two hearts on a Papermate pen, okay, and there's something about the equator about that, um, and it got to like you know through I mean like looking at alphanumerics and linguistics, geographic, bibliography, legal, medical. I mean, all kinds of terminology, electronic, electrical. I mean, so very many things, that I was like looking at. But anyway, and still am really. But anyway, so the thing about that is that um, like this is the Houston, Texas area, okay, and I'd refer to the attenuation of like processing speed um, in electronics. Um, how sure attenuation between electrical and electronic. But in any case, I'm focusing more on the electronic side right now because of the subconscious minus chase thing, okay? And the minus 36 in the feet. And anyway, so like it's gotten to the reference between you know, um, a pi r square thing of like a, a 36 and a 64, equating to like an absolute value of the Israeli flag of a 90-degree right angle of the bars above and below the star on the Israel flag, predominantly, the 64 being like an American or Israel. And it's like an absolute Christianity thing of like absolute values and how the pi r squared um, in coordination with like a ground rule double, um, like a baseball, and a baseball field being like a 90-degree right angle. Um, and the marginal spread of a tennis court, depending on what game, if it's only two tennis players, one on each side, or a doubles game with like four people on the tennis court, and that marginal spread of what's being as a practical application, um, that way as well as the terminology and pronunciation of a marginal spread. And what tennis really is to a court, um, as compared to a normal perception of what court might only seem to lead ultimately to North America, like the United States Supreme Court. Well, anyway, so like it's a whole entire different perspective that way of like what tennis really is to like a court in a whole different sense and manner, that way. And so I got to the love, Vantage Love 30, um, and the 30 thing, ultimately being the eagle of the U.S. dollar, um, the baby, the map, the Bible, and the list goes on and on about 30. And I believe that the word spelled out 30 is actually 100. And what Vantage Love 30 to 100 is, in alphanumerics, in that way of being 100. It's like a bicentennial, uh, like a centennial of a pi r squared, looking to find the actual diameter, equating to like a bicentennial relationship of 200, of like the Vantage Love 30, or a just secret de facto 30, and what 36 and 64 with alphanumeric seems to be predominantly, so with the 36 thing in chase and oil, and other things, even oat and some other stuff. But anyway, the subconscious mind is chase thing, equating 181 in electronic power and selective service and we international and a whole bunch of stuff about alphanumerics USA, Pearland, Texas USA, and Holy Miracles USA, and Pearland, Texas Home, and attenuation USA. The attenuation, it seems to be, so like when you take the letters U and A out of it, it's like the attention, the salute, and the pi r squared factor of the salute being the one hand in the salute, a practical application as a pi r squared thing about it, as compared to like attenuation and attention between the processing speed normally associated with um, electronics as far as processing speed, even frequency between teleprompting and audio production with waveform of signal processing, as compared to like something like the 13 band graphic equalizer, and focusing on 13 because of the 13 stars above the eagle on the US $1, and the 13 colonies and the 13 stars itself, and 13 being 99 in telepathic, and the telepathic TP, and a Native American Indian type of thing with a teepee and a Statue of Liberty, in that way. What was then, back then, the design of the crown, the seven crown spike being more cone shaped. The cones have been redesigned and not quite the same as they were, predominantly like in the 80s and 90s. But it has been it's had restoration and modification, as far as like the Statue of Liberty's crowns. But yeah, so as far as that goes, it seemed like the only reality of like a Native American Indian and telepathic teepee, or a 13 thing, about Washington D.C. and not limited to Washington D.C. at all. It's just that a thing about Chevy Chase was like so on at the teepee thing, and how, and he focused quite a bit on the Native American Indian and gesture, that way, and all that stuff about his implication with terminology and at Native American Indians. Excuse me. But anyway, like Chevy Chase, it's like a 99 thing as well. anyway, ultimately getting to the whole entire point of some telepathic thing about the what I'm referring to. But anyway, yeah. So I've gotten to a point that the power square and the two hearts. I'm going to have to finish. I'm going to have to try and get it in. In any case, yeah. So yeah. So the AOL thing and the two hearts on the papermate pen. Okay, is where I'm going to next. Okay, so I'm fixing to. I'm gonna have to stop for a second now.